Well, we got the Steam Machine prices earlier this week, and I was hoping that it would be closer to the cheaper side, but it turns out it wasn't. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into it, shall we? So, the Steam Machine prices, I'll have the link to the full page for everything in the description. So, if you want to read more about the Steam Machine, you can. The base prices is set up in four SKUs. There is a 512 version with no controller. That's the cheapest version of it, and that's already $1,000 and $1,049. Then there's another 512 with a controller that is $1,128. Then it goes up in storage. You got a 2 terabyte version that is $1,349. And then there's a 2 terabyte with the controller, which is the most expensive version of it, which is $1,428. That was way higher than I was expecting it to be. I I knew it was going to be $1,000. I did not expect this thing to get up to 14, almost $1,500. Um, when IGN and all the guys who normally do tech reviews, when they got information and got a chance to talk with the Valve representatives, they found out that they marked up the Steam machine with the same level of profit as they did for the Steam Deck when that got a huge price increase. And so they went ahead and did the numbers for us. And they found out that the base model, the 512 without the controller, the original price was going to be somewhere around $750. Now, that is a actually really good price for what it is. I think that this is kind of disappointing more than it is more than it is like I'm mad about, right? Because one of the reasons it's so high, and Valve has already said this before, one of the reasons why it's so expensive is not is the fact that they're not willing to sell this at a net loss. They're not going to subsidize the cost. Most console manufacturers, what they'll do is they will sell the console at a little bit of a loss so they can make up money for that through the software sales. Steam has said, no, we are not going to subsidize costs. We're not going to create a vacuum for us to continue losing money when we can just say, no, we're going to sell you this system as is for how much it costs to do that, plus the little bit of profit we need to stay up front, whatever we need to do that. And I applaud them on that, because actually in this circumstance, when Xboxes raise their prices, by the time I'm making this video, Xbox raised their prices again. Apple has just raised prices. We still have the price range from all of Sony that they did a couple of months ago, and then the Switch price range of what, $50, that's getting ready to come in a couple of months too. And this whole world where everybody's kind of losing money on this hardware deal, Steam is saying we're not going to put ourselves into the hole. We're not going to dig that hole up. If you guys want it, we're going to sell it to you for how much it costs for us to be able to realistically give it to you, and you can keep it. One of the things that I think people kind of forget is that this is a PC. This is not a console. And so for them not to sell it like a console makes sense, because for them, they're probably not seeing it like it's a console. They're seeing it probably more like it's a living room PC. And if you look up any living room PC right now that's going to actually look good in your living room, and your wife's not going to hate you for having, any PC that looks like that, you're paying probably twice as much. You're probably paying $2,000, $2,500 to get the same form function. However, I will say, with those living room PCs are significantly more powerful. They are a lot more powerful, which kind of ties back into some of these Steam Deck specs that we finally got, fully solidified. The problem with this Steam Deck is that power-wise, it is averaging out to about around a base level PS5. That is what the power spec is doing. The problem with that is you're paying almost twice as much for a console that you're paying twice as much for a system that is as strong as a system that came out 6 years ago. That's where it's like, I don't know if this is necessarily for the average consumer. But I think Valve knows that as well. They know they're selling this system to a community of people who, a lot of them are going to be enthusiasts. They're going to be guys like the Steam Deck, where they get into it, and it's the techie guys first who really like technology and gaming. They're the ones who are going to really get into it, and then as it gets out, more people may start buying in that normally wouldn't do it. Like the Steam Deck, when it first dropped, it was not this big giant thing that it is now, where everyone says if you want a PC handheld, go get a Steam Deck. You know, it's not what that was, right? When the Steam Deck came out, people who got it were tech YouTubers and then enthusiasts who wanted to try this sort of thing, where Valve was kind of putting their feet in the water to kind of combat against the Switch. I think the same thing will happen here. The problem with the Steam Machine is that this on paper is a wonderful idea, to be able to have a more affordable entry level live-in PC for your living room. That would be awesome on paper. And I think that this, if we did not have this AI tech bubble and all the stuff going on, where we're still getting affected by the tariffs in 2024 and 2025, you know, if we weren't fighting all of these financial barriers, I think that the Steam Machine would have honestly had incredible commercial success. I think that as a whole, the system would have gone really, really well, and a lot of people would have bought into it, and a lot of people would have really enjoyed having access to a system like the Steam Machine, to be able to just sit down, play it, and then they can turn it off and go about their business. SteamOS, they, especially now that they have had quite a few years to kind of fix it up and make it look nice and get everything squared away, SteamOS is absolutely stunning, and you don't have any problems with it. You know, you can put the system in standby and you can come back right back to it, and it's no problem at all. And it's something that I think a lot of other OSs are really struggling with. Like Xbox, Microsoft has been really struggling to try and make the Xbox experience really, really good. And so when you see things like the Steam Machine and SteamOS really, really holding it down, it's exciting on that. I think that for right now, this is what the prices are going to look like. It may go up if the AI bubble gets worse, but hopefully what happens is over time, either the price will come down, or when we get to possibly a Steam Machine 2, if the team feels up to it or ready for it, when we get a Steam Machine 2, hopefully that will be a cheaper system, so that way more people can get into the hardware. I, for one, will not be picking up a Steam Machine. I have no need for it. You know, I already have my PlayStation, I have my Switch 2, and I have a gaming PC for me to play on. But this really isn't for me. This is more so for someone who may have a Switch 2 and is looking to find a PC-like thing to fill that void. So this may have been something for them. But my recommendation is, unless you specifically are looking for the Steam Machine, like you want the Steam Machine is what you want. If you know that that's not the case and you're looking for other things, just go buy a pre-built PC online. You could probably get it for cheaper, and you'll get what you need out of it. One of the things too people often forget is right now SteamOS and Linux can't handle certain anti-cheats. So your Battlefield, your Call of Duties, Destiny 2, any Fortnite, any game that runs on that sort of anti-cheat isn't going to natively run unless you run a different OS. So if you're looking to play those games too, you're probably going to find somewhere else, unless a lot of these companies start to do the work to actually make it playable on Linux. But I don't see that happening for a while, because they don't really care. But anyway, what do you guys think about the Steam Machine? I think it's a little bit of a disappointment, right? Because I was hoping it to be a little bit more affordable, but I know the circumstances we're living in. If you're thinking about picking up a Steam Machine, let me know down in the comments, and let me know which SKU you're trying to get. If I were to get one, I would be looking at just going ahead and get the top model. Just go ahead and get all the storage, get the controller, get everything you need, so that way you can just hop in and play. But enough waffling for me. See you guys later.